Well, hello YouTube and welcome. And a special hello to my fanatical Paulites. I have a few words for you today. And excuse me as I am traveling, and right now I really am just going to speak off the cuff with you, okay? Haven't had time to prepare anything. This video is not a soft smear against your God. You may like to think that those who question this recent debacle regarding race are a single issue voter. Many of us are not. So when I say I do not support Mr. Paul, there are other deal breakers present. I presented some in my former video. Also, you can add to that list his indifference to body autonomy issues. I am not convinced that his religious convictions would not ultimately dominate or heavily influence his thinking. Also, there's the scary reality that he is an ideologue. So let's talk a little bit about his religious convictions and how they could influence his ability to be an impartial head of state. Mr. Paul believes there should not be a rigid separation between church and state. He claims the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment was simply intended to forbid the creation of an official state church. So no Church of England. No, we can't have that here in the United States. And I do agree with him on that point. So as long as a state church does not rear its ugly head, the influence that would be garnered by said institution is okay. He seems to forget the concept of freedom to worship or not to worship by playing on the fears of right-wingers by stating, they'll drive religion out of public life. Yeah, okay. This is dishonest and legitimately worrisome. Refusal to approve against government regulation or endorsement of religion allows diverse faiths, but you probably don't want to see that. And this carries a more hospitable environment for people of different beliefs or no beliefs, believe it or not. No pun intended. Mr. Paul admits that churches serve as vital institutions that would eclipse the state in importance. Now, right here, Mr. Paul is demonstrating that he is a Leviathan in the making. We do not need a church or government to teach morality and perfunctory politeness. He wants you to believe that moral and civil individuals are highly governed by their own sense of right and wrong, and hence, if I remember what he said, have little need for external government, but you must, now get this, you must cling to the church because the founding fathers' political views were strongly informed by their religious beliefs. He is counting on what he considers to be devout people to put their faith in God before their faith in the state. That's his reasoning. That's what he's counting on. So, increased liberties by making the government smaller is a good thing, but do not acknowledge the potential the church has to diminish liberties, and do not acknowledge history that shows that if given an opportunity, they will do just that. Especially if the government is allowed to play a role in promoting or funding religious institutions or religious beliefs. Now, he can acknowledge that foreign aid is taking money from poor people in this country and giving it to rich people in poor countries. And this is true. And when this happens, it becomes a weapon of war. This is also true. But he cannot grasp the simple concept that religion permeates the lives of non-believers as well as you believers and contributes heavily to the national culture. But he can't comprehend that maintaining division between church and state actually helps to prevent people who are attached to religious doctrine from imposing their will on others. And this increases liberty, and this increases freedom. But he won't mention that, right? No, because he needs those people to push him forward. Now let's turn the page now, okay? Before you leave additional messages stating that he can't be a racist due to the head of the Austin, that's right, head of the Austin NAACP endorsement that Paul received claiming that he is not a racist, think about this. One person's word does not a valid defense make. It matters not that he has the backing of a NAACP bigwig. Let's imagine I interviewed other members who are in leadership positions within the NAACP. If one of equal station emphatically states that Mr. Paul is a racist, are you willing to now change your position and declare it's a done deal? Case closed, because he said so. Of course not. So this shows if you continue to use this excuse, you are not concerned about truth. Your investment is with anything that wages war on objective consideration, thereby supporting your inclination to favor your predisposition. If you want a better America, stop brushing off evidence that contradicts your position or dulls the edge of your prophet's message. Don't ignore it, pretend it doesn't exist, and do all you can to shield your worldview by making excuses for it. How about unplugging from the tit of promised liberty, dreams about free market capitalism? How about being practical and investigate actuality and not reinforce what you want to be actuality? Now, for some advice. Stop displaying that you have no street smarts, okay? Doesn't look good for you. It is not unheard of that a racist will actually assist members of other groups, people they find inferior. This humanitarian gesture is a juke, but does not negate their nature. Call it a Teflon setup. It provides a protective shield which repels future accusations of racism. It literally becomes hard for accusations to stick, even if they're valid. Also, Mr. Paul has not issued an apology for these deeply offensive and disturbing and graphic verbal descriptions which were completely false and misleading. Yet, he acknowledges that he is ultimately responsible for a publication which presents him as owner. I am speaking of the Ron Paul Political Report and the Ron Paul Survival Report. Now, Paulites, do not worry. I would never declare that Mr. Paul should be defined by the worst of you. However, it would be grand if he would make a stand, a real stand. Like create a commercial that would play nationally, not just in the state of Texas, which clearly spelled things out. A commentary where Martin Luther King Jr. is not quoted regarding character, where he does not hide behind his words. No, this statement that he would make would allow Mr. Paul to shine by providing direct, truthful commentary. You think he can do that? I think he can, but do you think he will? Nah, I don't think so. Shifting gears. Ron isn't a monarch. He can't simply establish laws or repeal them. Those duties are meant for Congress and the Supreme Court. Now, there is a mob system within America today. Call it fascism or neo-feudalism or corporate oligarchy. I don't care what you call it, as long as you acknowledge the reality. They will not simply allow things to change because a civil libertarian says so. And if you think that this is untrue, you have a harsh reality ahead of you. Now, regarding the behavior that has been demonstrated on my last video, and the behavior of you fanatical Paulites who have participated on the comment section of other posters who happen to disagree with Mr. Paul. The way you behave on these comment sections does not reflect well on this person you consider to be distinguished and honorable. It doesn't. Now, we know that every other ward healer running is a member of the status quo. We can see by their actions. If given an opportunity, they will lead us via the Pied Piper of singularity to neo-feudalism or globalism. Personally, I think we are already there. Many of you behave like deranged religious fanatics. You have a penchant for cognitive dissonance. You, like the automatons some of you are, pamper your dreams by feeding your silence. You refuse to wage war on the trance caused by your hero worship. It is perfectly okay to make inquiries. His fecal matter is not a precious metal. Many of you behave the same way Obama's supporters did. You need to believe this man represents real change. Change you can believe in. Your belief does not equate to reality, only possibility. So keep in mind, people who do not support Mr. Paul are not necessarily calling for the doom of America, nor are they necessarily your enemy until you make them such. Thank you for listening.